everybody. Welcome back. Today, we're going to be diving into the first of a few. We're not going to do this for every song, but we're going to do a few of these. But we're going to do some breakdowns of the Logic files. I was told by a few of you in the survey that I sent out, and you might have been part of that survey or not. It's just how it works. But I did send out a survey that asked what kind of stuff were people looking for. And one of the things was that you were all kind of interested in diving into the Logic project files of how these songs are actually put together. And I'm like, hey, let's go ahead and do that. I enjoy that stuff. Mixing is so much fun. You don't even know. Plus, I love sharing kind of the nuts and bolts of what it takes to kind of put a song like this together. And today we're starting with the first one, which is going to be One More For Obscurity. And then I have a few others that I'm going to be recording for you. So now you should be seeing One More For Obscurity on your screen. You'll notice that, you know, the BPM is not actually very fast. What is the BPM here? So it's a 90 BPM song. So, you know, not super fast, but it also stays with like its tempo and stuff. Whereas a couple of my other songs are actually really high BPM, but you know, they're basically treated as like halftime. I feel, to me, the star of this song ends up being the beat. And I know some people like to use like beat makers and whatnot, you know. I don't personally do that. I have like a treasure trove of like thousands and thousands of, I think I even did the math. I think it was like 18,000 different drum sounds, drum samples. So I like to take the pieces and like piece it together myself. And then when I come up with something really good, then I'm like, hey, I can make a song out of that. And in this case, One More For Obscurity was kind of me trying to come up with like a really bassy kind of like almost industrial kind of feel of a beat. And I was very successful. You'll notice here that the beat itself has 3 kicks, 2 snares, and 2 hats, and that's pretty much it. It does repeat throughout the whole song. Only during the bridge is it any different. It drops out entirely, and then there's just some pieces that are there. But the beat itself stays the same throughout the whole song because, I mean, that's kind of the song, right? The song is about the repetitiveness of it all. So there isn't really much variation in the beat itself. There's a couple of little parts that, you know, in other instruments that do kind of rise and fall, but in this one, not so much. But like, if you just listen, I'm a huge fan of kind of layering different sounds, and you're going to see that in this video. But like, even if we just take the 3 different, you know, kicks, you know, I have, you know, versus. So like, you know, so those 3 together become, which of course now together with the snares and the hats. And you'll notice too, if you look at these panning, I have one central, like the main kick, then I have, you know, right here, the 2 extra kicks, then I have right here, the 2 snares, then I have right there, the 2 hats. So it's like very kind of like, it's multi-spectrum, like spanning. So the beat really feels really big just by using panning and stuff. So the beat by itself, because, you know, you only get to really hear the beat by itself a little bit, but here's the beat. And the, you know, if you listen to the demo, you heard it. It was like really like, you know, and I ended up cleaning that up a lot and making it a lot silkier, a lot smoother. There's less reverb on it and whatnot, less grunginess and distortion and whatnot than originally. But super, super proud of this beat. This one's one of my faves, which again, as soon as I wrote the song, as soon as I had the beat, I was just like, all right, let's do this. And I was kind of on a C# kick at the moment. So I was like, well, this song's going to be in C#. There's another song on the album, which is also in C#, Fear of Flight, that I wrote pretty much around the same time as One More For Obscurity. So really, really fun stuff. So if we go over to the bass is actually on the simple side. It's not that, difficult. It's a lot of just like pretty much even a beginner bassist could play this one. I really, again, wasn't really going for anything super flashy bass wise on this. We'll talk about the chorus in a minute where everything kind of syncs up, but the bass itself is just. So, I mean, it's pretty much on the simple side there. There's a little bit of compression on there and a little bit of EQing. But for the most part, I mean, that's pretty much just what I played. So very, very, very simple. And then, of course, we have the guitars. Now, going to the guitars, you'll notice that I have two. I'll have a left and a right channel for each of the guitars, and I have a lead guitar and I have a rhythm guitar. You'll notice I have the rhythm guitar for the chorus versus the rhythm guitar for the pre-chorus section, and those are slightly different ones, and I have them separated out mostly due to volume. Whereas I like to, some people do like the automation where they'll be like, well, I need this to be loud here. And, so they'll just do that. For me, if it's an entire section that needs to be that volume, and I'll do little automations and stuff for volume later on top of that. But if it's like I need this whole section to be less than this whole section in terms of volume, then I'll just move that to its own track and just turn it down, and then I can always tweak it later on. I find that just works easier for my workflow. I'm sure the pros do it way better, but since this is my mix, this is how I did it. But the fun part about the lead versus the rhythm here is that I really was going for very different tones. That's another thing I really like. My guitars that are on my songs, I don't want them sounding the same because I want you to be able to differentiate them, even to the point where I like for you to be able to differentiate between the one side and the other side. So like if we listen to the initial, riff that started this whole song, if you listen to it on the right, it's. And then on the left, it's. And then of course, together that makes. And I think it's a really cool effect that you can get out of just two different guitar tones and kind of smashing them together. And essentially, this is one tone. Like you're getting one guitar out of this because the application of the audio is actually just duplicated. I enjoyed that, so I went kind of harder. So on the lead, but then of course on the rhythm guitar, it's more ethereal. There's a lot of reverb and a lot of like delay and stuff on it, so you'll hear it. So it's more mimicking the bass line than anything until you get into the later parts of the song. This is the beginning, so everything's very simple in the beginning. So yeah, but the really fun thing about the guitars, and I'll just point this out, is that they kind of bounce off of each other. And I do this in Better Off Alone as well, and we'll talk about that when we get to Better Off Alone. That is one of the other songs we're going to do this for as well. But I did this here, so you'll notice that like whenever lead guitar is doing kind of this long drawn out thing, the rhythm guitar is kind of picking it up and keeping the energy going. So just to kind of hear them back to back. So I'm a fan of that because it's. So it's like it is there mostly for support, but it basically fills in those spots where the lead guitar isn't really necessarily going. And also, these and these are the same. Again, it's different volumes that I needed based on the sections. I need it to ring out a little bit less here, but I need it to be more prominent here. So you see these are louder than those. And of course, during the bridge, there's just the one. Most of the other ones, I have them panned. This one, I was like, I just kind of want it to be a one single solitary, ringing of the guitar. And it's a slightly different effect. It's got a little bit more echo and stuff on it, just slightly more than the other, rhythm guitar. But I'm such a fan of this song and just the way that, I took this initial, kind of riff here, and then it, and I'm like, what can I do with that? And it turns out you can do a lot with that, especially when you couple it with a really awesome beat and some cool keys. Now, this is the fun part here, is that with the keys, I layered a ton of keys. And this is something that I've really just been kind of messing around with it. A lot of songs on my first album were like one pad in the back or maybe two. Whereas this one, I was like, I'm going to go for broke. Let's see how many of these I can have on here. So you'll notice behind the song, these are the main two that are just kind of there most of the song. So you'll have so I really like that. But then I went ahead and mirrored that with another effect called drifting chimes. And that's more just like ethereal and just kind of atmospheric, right? It's less musical and more atmospheric. So the two together kind of creates this weird kind of spookiness. You know what I mean? So those are the two that are going through most of the song. You'll notice during the pre-chorus section here that I add in a little thing. It's called sparks, but I just added in just on the left side. It's just ever so subtle that, and it's not even that loud, but you just kind of hear it over here. And all it does is it just makes it so that you're just hearing a little bit of extra something during this section. And again, underneath the guitar and the bass and all that stuff, it's almost not noticeable, but there's a term in music called ear candy, and you want those things to be there. And then, of course, during the chorus, I add in this half leggy, which and that's just so that for anybody who's listening, it's just kind of accenting the different little bits of the song. So it's just adding just that little extra bit. And you'll notice that a lot of those are kind of doing different things. And then, of course, in the second half of the chorus, we start adding in the pulse echo here. So you end up getting just a little bit more. Then when we get to the bridge, I have the drifting chime still going, but then I add in two other ones called Black Sun and Drowned Signs. So Drowned Signs sounds like this. And Black Sun sounds like this. So it's a little bit more, kind of the same thing as I was doing before. One is a little bit more percussive, and the other one is more kind of just a pad. But when you couple all of that together with these keys in the background, you get so making music is so much fun because you get to kind of mess around with some of these cool things. So I have a ton of different synth sounds in the background that would almost you get lost underneath the heavy guitars, but they don't. Like, you can hear them all, obviously, depending upon what you're listening on. If you're listening on headphones, are way more obvious. But I was really a fan of how this works. And then obviously we have the riser. And that's usually like it does that explosion at the beginning of a chorus. All of it together minus the voice, you end up getting. So you end up with a lot there. Now, messing around with the voice here, let's talk about the voice, not the TV show. So you'll notice I have a lot of tracks here. Most of them are left and right of the same thing. You'll notice here that there's a part here, the first part of the verse. There's the main vox, main vox, main vox, main vox, and that's doubled up because this one is the very first part of the song where I'm singing, where I say, anything could happen now. And it's actually kind of on the clear side. So just to hear,
anything could happen now.
And then and I wouldn't even notice, my mind just wouldn't allow it. And at that point is where I added kind of like an underlayer formant, like a different sound, almost like a second voice going.
And I wouldn't even notice, my mind just wouldn't allow it.
So my voice has changed and I haven't even noticed because anything could happen. And that was just another little vocal trick, a little mixing trick that I did to kind of, again, enhance the song and the meaning and whatnot. So anybody who picked that up, that, hey, his voice sounds really different in the beginning throughout the rest of the song versus throughout the rest of the song. That part's very clear. And then we have this part, and then the rest of the verses are in this. When we get to the pre-chorus stuff, it's pretty much the same. If I recall, I added in, there's a little bit more echo on this part.
The days are gone. There is no outside.
And I have the same reverb on all of my vocals for this song. I didn't want it to diverge too much. And then the chorus is the same, except also there's a little bit of additional harmony effect, ensemble effect on it.
But I'll give you one more piece of me, then maybe you'll remember.
So good stuff, good stuff. And then, of course, the interesting thing about the bridge vox is that that's where I actually took out a lot of the extras and I kind of made it a little bit simpler and a little bit cleaner.
I don't want obscurity.
So it kind of returns back to the vocals at the beginning of the song. Musically, I'm hoping to tell a story here. It's not just with the lyrics. The clear to more of a kind of second voice, there's always somebody watching me, then to really echoey, really kind of pleading. And then we get to the chorus where, it's really, really big. And then we repeat that, obviously, but we never really go back to the first clear until we're kind of in this bridge part where it's very desperate and very kind of, I need that, before it just returns back to what it was before. And I mean, honestly, all together, it's really, really dope. Not to pat myself on the back too much, but as soon as it was all together, it was done. And then it just required tweaking and a couple of retakes here and there. It's just such a good song. And hopefully you enjoyed kind of diving into the nuts and bolts of what makes this song kind of work. Hopefully that's kind of the thing you guys were looking for. If it wasn't, let me know. But honestly, just each of these is the different pieces, is 38 different tracks. I mean, that's a lot, honestly. Some songs you can get away with maybe 20, 25, somewhere around there. This one has a lot. And again, it's because I'm doubling up on a lot of the vocals and guitars. Also, there's a lot of different keys, a lot of different synth sounds in there that kind of make this song what it is. And that's one more for obscurity. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Otherwise, though, thank you so much. And I'll see you guys in the next one.
I'll give you one more piece of me, then maybe